Insults don't break kings, they crown them. The greatest power is not in what they say to you, but in how you choose to stand. Every insult is a test. Pass it and you rise above the crowd. He who controls others may be powerful, but he who has mastered himself is mightier still. Insults are not born from truth. They are born from a struggle for power. When a person insults you, they are not delivering a fact about who you are. They are delivering an attack designed to make you doubt yourself, to make others doubt you, and to shift the balance of control in their favor. Insults are less about describing reality and more about bending perception. Think about it. If someone calls you weak, does that suddenly make you weak? No, but the seed of the insult lies in its ability to make you question your strength, to force you into defense, to trap you in explanation. The power of the insult is not in accuracy, it is in manipulation. The moment you try to prove the insult wrong, you have already given it weight. You are now playing their game on their terms. Machiavelli would tell us that men rarely speak truth when attacking one another. Instead, they speak what wounds, what undermines, what shifts respect and loyalty. An insult is a tool of strategy. It is used by those who feel threatened or by those who want to gain advantage without open conflict. It is the dagger hidden in the sleeve, cheap, quick, but effective if you allow it to strike. History is filled with rulers, generals and thinkers who were smeared with words far harsher than any truth deserved. Were these insults accurate? Rarely. But they were powerful because they shaped how others saw them. Words can turn loyal followers into skeptics, and skeptics into enemies, if not handled wisely. This is why an insult should never be seen as a mere opinion. It is a move in the game of influence. At its core, an insult is a test. The insulter is asking, can I shake you? Can I make you reveal insecurity? Can I make you lose your composure? If you stumble, they win, not because they were right, but because you allowed their words to dictate your reaction. And this is the essence of power. Control over perception. Truth, on its own, is quiet. It does not need to shout. But insults shout loudly because they are trying to cover weakness with volume. They are a mask of power, not power itself. The strong rarely waste their energy on insults because they do not need to. They already command respect. The ones who do hurl insults are often those who lack real strength, so they attempt to seize it with words that sting. So understand this: insults are not mirrors reflecting who you are. They are arrows, aimed to pierce the armor of your self-control. If you take them as truth, you bleed. If you see them as attempts at control, you stand firm. And when you stand firm, the insulter reveals themselves, not as powerful, but as desperate. When someone insults you, your first instinct is almost always to react. Human pride demands defense. The moment you feel attacked, the natural urge is to strike back, to prove yourself, to restore dignity. But here lies the paradox. In responding to an insult, you may be feeding it more power than it deserves. Often the most devastating response is no response at all. Ignoring an insult, when done with composure, can be stronger than any retort, because silence does what words often cannot. It denies the insult oxygen. Think about the mechanics of an insult. Its power comes not from the words themselves, but from the reaction they provoke. If an enemy insults you in front of others, they are setting a trap. They want you to flinch, to get angry, to reveal weakness. Their words are bait, and your reaction is the snare. But what happens if you remain unmoved? What happens if you look at them with calmness, as though their words were too insignificant to register? Suddenly the insult turns back on them. Instead of exposing your weakness, it exposes their desperation. Instead of making you look small, It makes them look petty. Machiavelli understood that perception is often more important than reality. An insult only works if it shifts perception, if it makes you appear lesser in the eyes of others. But ignoring an insult can flip that perception. When you don't react, you send a message: I am above this. Your words are beneath me. That silence is not weakness. It is a display of unshakable confidence. It shows that your power does not rely on defending yourself against every minor attack, because your strength is already recognized, already established, and does not need explanation. There is a psychological depth to this strategy. Humans are naturally curious. When someone hurls an insult, and you ignore it, you leave a gap. People watching expect a fight, an explosion of words, some sort of retaliation. When none comes, the audience begins to wonder, why didn't you react? Perhaps you are so secure in yourself that the insult did not even touch you. Perhaps the insulter was foolish, and their words too unworthy to merit its acknowledgement. This silence plants doubt not in you, but in them. It forces others to re-examine the insult, and often to dismiss it themselves. In this way, ignoring can be more persuasive than defending. Consider how great leaders have dealt with slander and mockery. The most successful often did not waste their energy on trivial words. They saved their responses for matters of real consequence. If a king answered every peasant who shouted an insult from the crowd, he would no longer appear like a king. His authority would crumble because he lowered himself to the level of those beneath him. Authority is preserved by restraint, by refusing to be dragged down into petty squabbles. By ignoring insults, a leader maintains an aura of superiority, as if to say, I do not even hear the barking of dogs when I walk through the street. That imagery alone demonstrates the power of ignoring. But ignoring insults is not merely about outward image. It is also about inner discipline. To ignore an insult requires mastery over the ego. Most people are enslaved by their pride, ready to leap into defense at the smallest slight. But those who have mastered themselves understand that pride can be a trap. They recognize that the true danger of an insult is not the words, but the way those words can provoke irrational behavior. By ignoring, you demonstrate not only control over the situation, but also over yourself. This inner mastery is far more impressive than any sharp comeback could ever be. Moreover, ignoring can be a subtle form of humiliation for the insulter. Imagine a man hurling insults, his face red with rage, his voice raised to command attention. Now imagine you stand still, your eyes calm, your expression unbothered. You do not speak, you do not flinch. In that silence, his fury grows louder, more desperate, until he looks like the fool. By refusing to play the game, you force him to play alone, and nothing strips an insult of its power more quickly than laughter at the one who delivers it. The crowd sees not your weakness, but his lack of dignity. Of course, ignoring does not mean you never act. There are times when insults, if left unanswered, can fester and corrode your reputation, but most insults are not of that nature. Most are passing strikes, attempts to irritate, distractions, meant to lure you into wasted battles. In such cases, ignoring is not only stronger, it is wise. It saves your energy for the battles that truly matter, the conflicts where your words and actions can shape outcomes that affect your destiny. Machiavelli warned that rulers must be economical with their power. Spending it on petty disputes diminishes it. Saving it for decisive moments multiplies it. Think also of how ignoring an insult unsettles the insulter. They expect a reaction. They prepare for your anger. They anticipate that satisfaction. When you deny them that satisfaction, you frustrate their intention. It is like striking without lifting a hand. They walk away more injured than if you had shouted back. This is a subtle but devastating kind of victory, the victory of calmness over chaos, of dignity over pettiness. To ignore an insult, then, is not cowardice, it is strategy. It is the recognition that words only carry the weight you give them. It is the understanding that in the theater of power, not every arrow must be caught and returned. Some arrows should simply be allowed to fall harmlessly to the ground, proving that they were never sharp enough to matter. So when you are insulted, pause, resist the urge to defend yourself immediately. Ask, does this insult matter? Or is it bait? If it is mere noise, let it fade into silence. Let the world see that you are too focused, too composed, too powerful to be disturbed by trivialities. In that silence, your strength will speak louder than any word. There are moments when silence is strength, when ignoring an insult is the mark of wisdom, but there are also times when silence can be mistaken for weakness, when allowing an insult to linger unchallenged creates an opening for others to doubt you. In such moments, Machiavelli would not advise blind fury, for fury clouds judgment. He would counsel precision, to strike back, not out of emotion, but out of strategy, to make the response so sharp, so measured, and so undeniable, that it dismantles the insult and elevates your authority at the same time. The art lies in knowing when an insult is a trivial jab, best left unanswered, and when it is a calculated attack meant to undermine your power in the eyes of others. The difference between reacting in anger and responding with precision is the difference between a wild swing and a surgeon's scalpel. Anger seeks immediate release. Precision seeks a lasting impact. When someone insults you with the intent to weaken your standing, especially in front of an audience, silence may allow that poison to spread. In that situation, the wise course is not to rage, but to respond in a way that reminds everyone who you are, without losing composure. The reply should not be longer than the insult. It should be shorter, sharper, and delivered with calm authority. In that calmness, the force of your words will carry more weight than any volume could. Consider the way rulers, generals, or great thinkers, through history, have dealt with challenges to their honor. They did not respond to every slight, but when their position was threatened, when loyalty itself was at stake, they struck back swiftly and decisively. The goal was never revenge. The goal was to restore order, to reassert dominance, to prevent seeds of doubt from taking root in the minds of others. The insult was answered, not because it hurt feelings, but because it threatened stability. Precision requires you to detach from personal pride, and instead ask, what effect is this insult having on my influence, on my authority, on the perception of those who follow me? If the effect is trivial, let it go. If it is significant, then answer, but answer as a tactician, not as a hothead. The strength of a precise response lies in its restraint. A calculated reply can make the insulter regret their words more than any heated argument. For example, if someone questions your intelligence in front of others, responding with calm wit rather than rage flips the insult back on them. A simple line that exposes the shallowness of their remark can silence them and make the audience laugh at their expense. The key is not to mirror their pettiness, but to display superiority of thought, of self-control, of presence. Your response should sting, but it should sting because it reveals the insulter's weakness, not because it shows your temper. Machiavelli understood that power is perception. If you look rattled, you lose power even if you win the argument. If you look unbothered, yet still dismantle the insult with a precise strike, you gain both respect and fear. It is this balance, appearing untouchable, while still defending your position, that makes precision so effective. You do not need to say much. In fact, the less you say, the more powerful your words become. Each syllable should feel deliberate, chosen not for emotional satisfaction, but for maximum effect. Timing, too, is everything. Striking back too quickly, may make you look impulsive. Striking back too late may make you look uncertain. Precision means waiting just long enough to let the weight of silence press upon the room, and then answering in a way that leaves no room for doubt. That pause itself creates suspense, and when you finally speak, the words land with the force of inevitability. The audience feels not just the reply but the control you demonstrated in crafting it. And there are times when precision demands more than words. If insults come repeatedly, calculated to erode your influence, sometimes the response must be action, a promotion given, a decision made, a command executed. These can serve as answers, louder than any argument. By showing results, instead of engaging in squabbles, you send a message that is impossible to ignore. You are not shaken, you are not small, and you will not allow your authority to be undermined. Action, when delivered at the right time, can silence detractors more thoroughly than rhetoric. Yet, even in action, precision matters. To punish every insulter equally is wasteful and cruel. To punish strategically is powerful. If the insult comes from someone inconsequential, the blow of your silence is enough. If it comes from someone who threatens your standing, then the punishment must be visible, measured, and proportionate, not out of vengeance, but as a lesson to others. The point is not to destroy but to deter, to remind everyone of the cost of overstepping boundaries. This is why precision is superior to anger. Anger seeks to hurt, precision seeks to maintain order and respect. The greatest danger in striking back is letting the insulter set the terms of battle. Anger makes you play their game, but precision makes them play yours. A precise response shifts the focus from their insult to your strength. It reframes the situation. Instead of being remembered for what they said, the audience remembers how you handled it. And in matters of power, memory is everything. People follow, not the one who complains the loudest, but the one who handles challenges with composure and strength. To strike with precision, then, is to use insults as opportunities. Each one is a test, and by answering wisely, you transform the test into proof of your strength. Sometimes the precision is in silence, sometimes it is in words, sometimes it is in action, but it is always controlled, deliberate, and aimed, not at satisfying ego, but at securing power. So the next time an insult threatens not just your pride, but your position, do not let anger take the reins. Pause, calculate, ask yourself, what response will restore order, preserve my image, and remind others of my strength? Then strike once, cleanly, with no excess. Leave no doubt, no lingering debate, no question of who commands the moment. That is how precision defeats insults, and that is how power is maintained. The highest mastery in dealing with insults does not lie in ignoring them, or even in striking back with precision, but in transforming them into tools of influence and respect. It is one thing to defend yourself, but it is another to take the very weapon that was meant to wound you and turn it into proof of your strength. This is the Machiavellian ideal, not merely surviving attacks, but bending them into instruments that serve your power. Insults, when understood correctly, are raw energy. They can either burn you or fuel you, depending on how you choose to handle them. At their core, insults are attempts to define you. Someone says, "You are too ambitious, too ruthless, too different, too cold, too arrogant." These words are not just meant to hurt, they are attempts to shape how others see you. But if you refuse to let others write your story, you can take their words and repurpose them as part of your identity, turning what was meant to shame you into something admirable. When called too ambitious, you can embrace it. Ambition is vision, and vision is leadership. When called ruthless, you can frame it as clarity of decision-making, the courage to do what others can. In this way, the insult becomes not a burden, but a banner, one that distinguishes you from the ordinary. Throughout history, leaders who endured the harshest insults often turned them into cornerstones of their legacy. Great generals were called reckless until their daring moves won victory. Innovators were called foolish until their ideas reshaped entire societies. Saints were mocked as madmen until their faith inspired generations. What made them powerful was not that the insults stopped, but that they refused to be diminished by them. Instead, they reframed them, using the sting as proof that they were doing something bold, something disruptive, something beyond the comprehension of small minds. This is why the strong are often the most insulted, because their very existence threatens the comfort of mediocrity. Transforming insults requires not just mental strength, but also strategic awareness. When an insult is thrown, you must see beyond the words themselves and ask, what fear or envy lies beneath this attack? People insult what they do not understand, or what they secretly wish they could be. If someone mocks your discipline, perhaps they lack self-control. If they ridicule your ambition, perhaps they fear being left behind. By recognizing the insecurity beneath the insult, you gain perspective. Instead of taking offense, you can turn the moment into an opportunity to highlight your own values. The insult becomes a mirror that reveals more about the speaker than about you, and in pointing this out, subtly, not cruelly, you elevate yourself while lowering. There is also a powerful psychological effect when you show that insults do not break you, but instead make you stronger. When others see you transform hostility into confidence, they begin to respect you, even admire you. You demonstrate resilience, and resilience is one of the most magnetic qualities of leadership. People gravitate toward those who cannot be shaken, because such individuals give them a sense of stability. By showing that insults feed your determination rather than diminish it, you make yourself into a figure others trust to withstand storms. Another way to turn insults into tools is through humor. When you take an insult and twist it into a joke at your own expense, you strip it of its sting and win over the audience. This does not mean belittling yourself, but showing that you are secure enough to laugh. For example, if someone mocks your seriousness, you might smile and say, "Yes, seriousness pays better than laziness." In one line, you acknowledge the insult, flip it, and come out appearing both clever and unbothered. Humor makes you seem untouchable, because it shows that nothing said against you can truly harm you. But beyond humor, beyond reframing, there lies the deeper power of transformation, using insults as fuel for growth. Sometimes there is a grain of truth hidden within an insult, even if it was delivered with malice. If someone calls you careless, perhaps it is an invitation to tighten your discipline. If someone calls you too rigid, perhaps it is a reminder to remain flexible where necessary. The wise do not dismiss every insult, they sift through them, extracting any hidden value. Even an enemy can sometimes provide the harsh honesty that friends are too kind to give. By using insults as feedback, you turn adversaries into unwitting teachers. This transformation is the ultimate revenge, because it means every attempt to harm you only sharpens your edge. What makes this approach Machiavellian is that it does not rest on emotion, but on strategy. Instead of being ruled by pride, you ask, how can this insult serve me? Can I turn it into proof of my strength, a display of wit, an opportunity for growth, or a mirror of my enemy's weakness? In each case, the insult ceases to be an attack and becomes an asset. You rob the insult of their power and claim it as your own. The remarkable thing about turning insults into tools is that over time, you build a reputation for resilience. People learn that attacking you is futile, because their words will only rebound to your advantage. This creates a protective shield around you.
Insults no longer discourage others from following you. Instead, they reinforce your image as someone who rises above. Every insult becomes another stone in the fortress of your reputation, and soon, those who once sought to humiliate you realize they are only helping you build your legend. So the next time someone insults you, pause and ask yourself, how can I use this? Do not waste the moment in anger or self-pity. Do not throw away the energy of the attack. Mold it, shape it, repurpose it. Show the world that nothing hurled at you can harm you, that every word against you only adds to your strength. This is not about pride, it is about power. Insults are inevitable, but whether they diminish you or elevate you is entirely within your control. And when you learn to turn them into tools for influence and respect, you no longer fear them, you welcome them, for each one becomes proof that you are someone worth attacking, someone whose presence unsettles, someone whose strength is undeniable. In the end, insults are not simply words flung in the heat of a moment, they are tests, weapons, and opportunities all at once. They reveal more about the one who throws them than the one who receives them, and the way you choose to respond marks the difference between weakness and mastery. Machiavelli's way is not to be dragged down by emotion, but to rise above with strategy, knowing when to ignore and starve an insult, when to strike back with precision to protect authority, and when to transform hostility into a tool that strengthens your image. Power is never in the insult itself, it is always in your response. Those who let words shake them become prisoners of perception, but those who control the battlefield of their mind turn even insults into stepping stones toward influence. Remember this, the strongest are not those who silence their critics, but those who make their critics' words serve their own rise. Let every insult remind you, not of your fragility, but of your strength, and let your response, whether silence, precision, or transformation, prove that nothing spoken against you can ever define you.